The webcast is working now, Jeff.
Thanks, Jason.
Hello, can folks hear me? Thank you so much. Hello. Thank you so much for coming this morning. We're sorting out some technical difficulties related to the webcast, so should be online in just a couple minutes. Okay, and just to make sure folks saw, we do have some handouts on the tables outside the room as well as a sign-in, so if anyone didn't grab those, now would be a great time to do so. There's some slides as well as some additional detail about our current proposal.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Ron Haste. I'm the manager of the off-road control section in the Mobile Source Control Division at the California Air Resources Board. I'm going to make some housekeeping announcements. The phones, we ask that you please place your cell phones on the silent or vibrate mode. The restroom locations. The restrooms are located down the hallway across from the auditorium entrance. In case of an emergency, in the highly unlikely event of an emergency, if we need to shelter in place or evacuate the building, in the case of an evacuation, please exit the building through the exit doors at the back of the auditorium. If we need to shelter in place, if it is necessary to do so, such as in the event of an earthquake, please drop, cover your head, and hold onto your chair. So that's a public service announcement regarding the housekeeping items. So I guess I'd like to thank everyone for coming and bearing with us, being patient with some of our technical issues that we've had. We had a little difficulty getting the webcast up. It's up now. We are still having some technical difficulties as far as our email system for people who want to submit questions or comments via email, but we're working to resolve that, and we have a backup plan.
Should we go ahead and give that out now?
Yes, why don't we do that?
No, we're actually going to use a different.
Wait,
Can you go to our final slide?
Oh. We go to the last page of our slide.
Oh, okay, you got it. So the email that normally would be used for webcast participants to submit comments is being a little glitchy this morning, and so in lieu of that, we'd like to ask folks to just email me, and I'll use my trusty iPhone to get the comments or questions. So if you're viewing the webcast and you want to say something to us or ask a question, you can email me at kim.heroy-rogowski, which is quite a handful, but don't worry because you'll see that on the very last slide. It's the very last email address on slide 30, which Jeff will eventually page to. So it's kim.heroy-rogowski@arb.ca.gov. It's that really long one down at the bottom. So if you are watching the webcast, you have a question, you have a comment you want us to say out loud, please just email me and I'll be watching this. And so my name is Kim Heroy-Rogowski. I'm branch chief of the Mobile Source Reg Development Branch here at ARB. And I want to thank everyone who's attending and everyone who's watching on the webcast. We've been working on this rulemaking proposal for a bit over a year now. And we've We've pushed back the date for consideration a little bit to make sure that we understand all the details and nuances of how the current system is working, and so we can take the opportunity to clarify a few things that aren't as clear as probably they could be in the regulatory language. So we're feeling pretty good that we understand how the whole system is working now, and we have some real beneficial changes that we want to propose. And so we're looking forward to going over those with you guys today, and we certainly welcome any comments or questions. The reason that we do these workshops isn't just so we can check a box, it's so we can really get feedback. So if folks have questions or comments or suggestions, please don't be shy about speaking up.
Well, I guess, thank you, Kim, and I, in the interest of time, I think we'll go ahead and proceed with the presentation for today. So, Jeff?
Thank you, Ron. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for showing up today bright and early, and thank you to those watching through the webcast. As you know, your participation is essential in helping us to develop a comprehensive warranty regulation that takes all perspectives into consideration. The purpose of today's presentation is to reaffirm the need for longer emission warranty periods for on-road heavy-duty vehicles in California, and to address the changes to our proposal that have occurred since our previous workshop on July 12th of last year. To that effect, we've prepared a number of handouts that are available both online from CARB's heavy-duty low-NOx webpage and on the table outside this auditorium. The handouts contain staff's proposed amendments to the warranty regulations and test procedures, and I encourage you to pick up a copy if you haven't already done so. To keep the presentation moving smoothly, I ask that everyone hold your questions until after I've finished presenting all the slides. Okay, this is the email address that apparently isn't working. I hope you took note of the one that Kim had provided. You can try sending to both of them. Questions will get through to us, and we'll respond to them at the end of the presentation. Here are the topics I'll be covering in the presentation. First, I'll provide an overview of CARB's rulemaking schedule for on-road heavy-duty vehicles through the next several years. After that, I'll address the need for and the benefits of longer warranty periods. Next, I'll address a defect in the existing California regulations that could inadvertently circumvent the benefits of adopting longer warranty periods if we leave it unchanged. After that, I'll provide a summary of staff's revised proposal, including those elements that have changed as well as those that have stayed the same. Included in the revised proposal is a discussion on the need to update the minimum allowable maintenance requirement intervals. This is the most significant change from staff's previous proposal, but an absolutely necessary complement to ensure the effectiveness of lengthened warranty period changes. Following this summary, I'll discuss the proposed emission benefits and cost analysis of the rulemaking. I'll also discuss the impact of staff's proposal on purchasers of low-mileage vocational vehicles and on component manufacturers. Next, I'll briefly go over some of the key findings of the warranty survey commissioned by ARB and performed by the Sacramento State Institute for Social Research. The intent of the survey was to study the cost structure and the prevalence of existing heavy-duty extended warranties in California. Ms. Barbara Kirshner, the principal investigator for the survey, will be participating by phone, and at the end of the presentation, she'll answer any questions from the audience related to the survey. And finally, I'll open up the floor to general questions, comments, and what I hope to be a productive dialogue on our proposed warranty amendments. On this slide, we see CARB's on-road heavy-duty vehicle rulemaking schedule for the next several years. The on-road heavy-duty warranty proposal is currently scheduled for board consideration in May of this year, but as you can see from the table, it's only one part of a concentrated effort to achieve attainment with federal air quality standards. This slide is a continuation of CARB's scheduled heavy-duty vehicle rulemakings, culminating with a proposal for enhanced inspection and maintenance in 2020. Of particular note here is the comprehensive low-NOx rulemaking scheduled for later in 2019, that where we'll adopt lower NOx standards together with a low load duty cycle. We'll look to update useful life. We'll look to streamline durability provisions and improve in-use compliance. This slide illustrates one of the areas in California where additional reductions in toxic diesel PM and NOx are needed to protect health and for attainment with national ambient air quality standards. For ozone, CARB's air quality monitoring indicates that total NOx emissions from all sources in the South Coast Air Basin will need to decrease to approximately 96 tons per day in 2031, representing an approximate 80% reduction from current levels. Heavy-duty vehicles and federal sources remain the largest polluters, with heavy-duty vehicles responsible for approximately 33% of statewide mobile source category NOx. In order to meet air quality goals in the South Coast Air Basin, NOx from heavy-duty vehicles will need to be reduced by another 90% by 2031. This slide illustrates the discrepancy between warranty, useful life, and real-world longevity for compression ignition vehicles. Class 8 vehicles provide the most striking comparison, with real-world longevity from 8 to 12 times the current warranty mileage obligation based on B10 and B50 statistics. The B10 and B50 statistics are provided by the manufacturer as a gauge to predict when 10% or 50% respectively of an engine family will need a major overhaul. In other words, B10 represents when 90% of an engine family is still in service, and B50 represents when 50% of an engine family is still in service. For Class 8 vehicles, the average life expectancy of an engine family in which half of the vehicles sold are still in service with original engines is 1.2 million miles. Clearly, the information in this chart demonstrates that not only are longer warranties feasible for modern heavy-duty vehicles, they are necessary to ensure that emission levels remain in check with a greater portion of time these vehicles remain in service. The main reason, or the most important reason to increase the warranty period is to reduce emissions. An increase in the warranty period for heavy-duty vehicles will lead to reductions in emissions by incentivizing the repair of malfunctioning emission-related components that heavy-duty vehicle owners would not otherwise fix if they had to pay out of pocket. CARB's emissions modelers estimate that only 30% of heavy-duty vehicle owners will fix problems outside of warranty that do not drastically affect fuel economy or engine vehicle performance. Lengthening warranty means that a large portion of the 70% of owners who do not currently repair emission-related malfunctions outside of warranty will now affect such changes in a timely manner, especially when the OBD check engine light is concurrently illuminated. Longer warranty periods also reduce incidences of tampering and malmaintenance. There's little incentive for a vehicle owner to core a DPF or to bypass an SCR when the manufacturer is on the hook to pay for repairs. Owners will also have more of an incentive to perform scheduled maintenance on time so as not to void their extended warranty due to waiting too long for an oil change or filter replacement. Longer warranties help to ensure that heavy-duty vehicles remain at or below applicable emission standards longer in use, either through the timely replacement of malfunctioning emission-related components or through the redesign of more durable components. Heavy-duty vehicles will operate cleaner in use for a greater portion of their useful lives than currently warranted vehicles that experience high rates of emission-related failures. Although the link between increased warranty and more durable parts for heavy-duty vehicles may not be completely obvious, the increased warranty periods may encourage manufacturers to develop more durable components should the cost of frequent replacements outweigh the cost to redesign. CARB testing and surveillance programs have identified some heavy-duty vehicles with high warranty failure rates for emission-related components such as turbochargers and EGR. While these failure rates are worst-case examples from only a few manufacturers, they do demonstrate that at least some heavy-duty vehicles are not remaining durable with respect to emissions performance throughout their useful lives. Therefore, CARB is proposing to adopt longer warranty periods now in the short term, with the hope that longer warranty will encourage manufacturers to improve the durability of problematic emission-related components, rather than to pay for ongoing replacements through the vehicle's useful life. In either case, however, the vehicle will be far more likely to operate cleaner throughout its useful life. An additional reason why longer warranty periods are needed now is to protect truckers from having to pay out of pocket expenses to replace emission-related components that were really supposed to be designed by the manufacturer to remain durable throughout the useful life of the engine. The problem is likely to become even more apparent when owners have to comply with upcoming opacity, PSIP, and heavy-duty inspection and maintenance program updates. Last but certainly not least is the fact that the sooner longer warranty periods are adopted, the greater the long-term emission reductions will be. This is extremely important as we look out to California's ozone attainment goals in the 2031 timeframe. This is the regulatory defect I mentioned earlier in the presentation. Section 2036D3 of Title 13 of the California Code of Regulations states that warranty coverage ends after the first scheduled replacement of any emission-related component, even if the warranty period for that component has not yet been exceeded. Under the current 100,000-mile warranty requirement, 2036D3 has little practical effect because the minimum allowable maintenance intervals for almost all emission-related components are at least 100,000 miles. Therefore, manufacturers are generally unable to require the replacement of an emission-related component during the warranty period. However, staff is proposing to lengthen the warranty periods for heavy-duty diesel vehicles well beyond 100,000 miles. Therefore, any replacement maintenance scheduled at 100,000 miles would effectively truncate the lengthened warranty period back to the original 100,000 miles. Consequently, increasing the warranty period would provide no additional incentive to vehicle owners to effect more timely repairs, since they would still have to pay out of pocket after the first replacement interval for a given part. Staff is proposing to eliminate this defect in the regulations such that any part replaced during the lengthened warranty period would continue to remain covered throughout the remainder of the warranty period. Essentially, staff's proposed amendment to 2036D3, as shown in the handouts that we've provided, it would align California warranty requirements with those of the United States Environmental Protection Agency regarding the continuation of warranty coverage. Whereas staff's previous warranty proposal consisted only of lengthening the warranty period beyond 100,000 miles, a revised proposal now addresses 4 areas of concern primarily. Namely, these areas of concern are warranty periods, turbochargers and EGR, maintenance intervals, and clarifying the link between heavy-duty onboard diagnostics, mill illumination, and warranty. Our goal of reducing emissions and protecting consumers remains the same, but in order to achieve these ends, other elements of the regulations must also be amended. I will explain each of these proposed amendments in the following slides. The first component of staff's proposed warranty amendments is to lengthen the warranty periods for on-road heavy-duty vehicles with a gross vehicle weight rating greater than 14,000 pounds. Previously, staff had proposed to lengthen the warranty periods to the useful life of the engines that powered the heavy-duty vehicles for both diesel and auto cycle engines. Today, we are proposing a scaled-back approach such that Class 8 vehicles would be covered to 350,000 miles, Classes 6 through 7 would be covered to 150,000 miles, and Classes 4 through 5 would be covered to 110,000 miles. The 5-year warranty limit would still apply. Furthermore, staff is now proposing to lengthen the warranty periods only for diesel vehicles and not for auto cycle engines. The emissions benefits from increasing the warranty for auto cycle engines are small compared to those from diesels, so a temporary reprieve for auto cycle engines makes sense at this early stage of regulatory development. We are still proposing to align with US EPA warranty requirements by eliminating the 3,000-hour warranty limit in California. The reason for proposing less stringent warranty periods at this time was to address lead time concerns raised by some component manufacturers and others that the magnitude of the change in warranty periods would make it difficult and costly to re-engineer more durable components in a timely manner. During the workshop on July 12, 2017, staff raised the concept of special treatment for turbochargers based on information from various sources that turbochargers may frequently not be durable through useful life. Given the degree to which turbochargers can negatively affect emissions when malfunctioning, staff wanted confidence that these expensive devices would either last the useful life of the engine or would be replaced at the manufacturer's cost, similar to existing US EPA and California requirements for diesel particulate filters and selective catalyst reduction systems. In comparing the costs of turbochargers to diesel particulate filters and selective catalyst reduction systems, staff found that turbochargers were frequently more expensive. Staff also found that EGR systems, coolers in particular, were often more expensive than diesel particulate filters. Therefore, staff is proposing to treat turbochargers and EGR systems like DPFs and SCR systems with respect to allowable maintenance. This means that manufacturers would not be allowed to schedule replacement maintenance for them throughout the useful life, unless the manufacturer pays for the replacements. This makes sense in that turbochargers and EGR systems are high cost and catastrophic emissions failure inducing devices, at least potentially, for which a special treatment precedent already exists. Although staff is proposing to address the defective language in section 2036D3, as I mentioned earlier, the issue remains that vehicle owners would still be liable to pay for scheduled replacement maintenance, even should that maintenance be scheduled during the warranty period. To address this issue, which could also have the effect of disincentivizing vehicle owners from effecting timely repairs, staff is proposing to reduce the frequency of allowable minimum repair and replacement maintenance intervals. The basis for the new intervals is the least stringent or shortest interval currently designated by any certifying manufacturer for an emissions-related component. Where no replacement interval is designated, the new minimum replacement interval would become the useful life of the engine. It's important to note that we are proposing to change the minimum maintenance intervals only for components that the manufacturer schedules to be repaired or replaced. The minimum maintenance intervals for cleaning and adjustments will remain the same as they are right now. These proposed changes to the minimum repair and replacement intervals are necessary to ensure that lengthening the warranty period will result in benefits by incentivizing the vehicle owner to make repairs in a timely manner. For a comprehensive tabulation of staff's proposed updated minimum repair and replacement intervals, please see the separate handout titled Revised Maintenance Intervals. Excuse me. All modern on-road heavy-duty vehicles are equipped with an onboard diagnostic system that constantly monitors the vehicle for malfunctions that can affect emissions and notifies the vehicle operator by illuminating a malfunction indicator light and by storing fault codes that specifically identify the malfunction. Some of the benefits of heavy-duty OBD include the elimination of unnecessary repairs by specifically diagnosing the source of the malfunction, by reducing the cost of repairs and inspections, and by ensuring that emission controls continue to reduce emissions in use as they were designed. Although heavy-duty OBD has been fully implemented since the 2013 model year, California regulations currently provide no formal link between MIL illumination and on-road heavy-duty vehicle warranty coverage. This is currently the case for light-duty vehicles, as codified in Section 2037B2 of Title 13 of the California Code of Regulations. Nevertheless, manufacturers currently submit heavy-duty OBD reports to CARB's Emissions Warranty Information Reporting section, which I'm told are used for tracking warranty claims. Staff proposes to formally clarify the link between heavy-duty OBD and warranty by transferring the language in 2037B2 for light-duty vehicles to 2036B2 for heavy-duty vehicles, such that any defects in materials or workmanship which cause the vehicle's onboard diagnostic malfunction indicator light to illuminate would now be considered a warrantable condition, just like it is for light-duty. The applicability of staff's proposal as before, is limited to only new engines. However, it is now limited only to new diesel engines. There will be no modifications to in-use warranty requirements or to the warranty period specific to heavy-duty vehicles subject to greenhouse gas standards. Staff's proposal would apply to California certified and California registered engines only. Federal engines operating in California will not be subject to the new warranty requirements. The California period amendments are only applicable to compression ignition heavy-duty engines with a gross vehicle weight rating greater than 14,000 pounds. This would be Class 4 through Class 8. The proposed warranty requirements would only be applicable to model year 2022 and subsequent heavy-duty vehicles. Staff is also proposing to clarify the definition of a warranted part in Section 2035 C2A of Title 13 of the California Code of Regulations. We want to clarify it to include the statement, any part that can affect emissions, as this is already the case for light-duty vehicles. This is also supported already by the definition of an emission-related part in Section 1900B3 of Title 13 of the CCR, which is currently applicable to heavy-duty vehicles and already includes the language in question. Staff also proposes to clarify the language in Section 2040 of Title 13 of the California Code of Regulations to be consistent with the requirement in Section 2036D2 of the same Title 13 California Code of Regulations. That language requires manufacturers to pay to replace defective components discovered during inspections, and these would be inspections that do not call for replacement. Section 2040 does not currently differentiate the liability between manufacturers and vehicle owners in this case, so we are adding language to indicate that it is the same as 2036, and you can see this in the handouts as well. In this slide, we show some of the assumptions that went into modeling the NOx emission benefits for staff's warranty proposal. Based on data from the Sacramento State Warranty Survey and from industry, staff assumed that 40% of all heavy-duty vehicles greater than 14,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating are sold new with an extended warranty of 500,000 miles. Therefore, these vehicles would not benefit from staff's proposal because they already have an extended warranty. An additional 45% of Class 8 vehicles are assumed to be sold new with 250,000 mile warranties. And likewise, they would only present a moderate benefit from staff's proposal because you'd be going from 250 to 350,000 miles. Low mileage vehicles that travel less than 100,000 miles in 5 years were also excluded from the benefit generation calculation because staff's proposal would have no effect on them. The remaining population was modeled using MFAC 2017, and benefits were based on a higher likelihood of vehicle owners making repairs in a timely manner due to the increased warranties, and on a decreased incidence of tampering and malmaintenance. This slide shows the projected statewide NOx benefits from staff's proposal for select calendar years. Only vehicles certified and registered in California are included in the analysis. Emission benefits from engines certified federally that are operating in California have not been included. Help. I think. The baseline assumptions for the economic analysis of staff's proposal largely followed the inventory assumptions in that 40% of heavy-duty vehicles were assumed no cost above the baseline because they were sold new with the extended 500,000 mile warranties. And also that 45% of Class 8 vehicles were assumed reduced costs. Well, it was cost in addition to the baseline, but a smaller amount, because they were sold new with 250,000 mile extended warranties. Cost data were provided by several sources directly and indirectly, including the Sacramento State Warranty Survey, third-party warranty providers, service providers, engine and vehicle manufacturers, and from warranty claims data. All costs were amortized using a 5-year loan term at 6% APR. The estimated average cost of complying with staff's proposal ranges from $100 to $500 per vehicle when dividing total costs by the total population of vehicles. Keep in mind that the majority of engines are already covered by a full or partial extended warranty and therefore do not add costs to the baseline total. Likewise, the average estimated savings in repair costs from staff's proposal ranges from $50 to $400 per vehicle. These values would be the costs and savings per vehicle if manufacturers were to distribute costs and savings uniformly across entire products lines and not just those engines that don't already have an extended warranty. With this said, staff estimates that the cost to bring a Class 8 sleeper, for example, without a pre-existing extended warranty into compliance with staff's proposed length and warranty period of 350,000 miles to be between $2,500 and $3,000. I'll clarify these costs in the next few slides. In this first example, we have a brand new Class 8 sleeper cab with a purchase price of $140,000. The purchaser opts to buy a 250,000 mile extended warranty for $2,500 at the time of sale, bringing the total warranty to 350,000 miles. The purchaser finances both the sleeper cab and the extended warranty for 5 years at 6% interest. This results in an extra financing charge of $22,795 over 5 years. The total capital cost of ownership is then the $140,000 purchase price of the cab plus the $2,500 price of the extended warranty plus the $22,795 price of the interest, which equals $165,295 total. Now, the same vehicle under staff's proposal would increase in cost by $2,500 to $142,500 because it now includes the extended warranty. But there would be no additional cost for a separate extended warranty. So after financing the total capital cost of ownership, it would remain the same as before, $165,295. Our cost analysis would consider this vehicle to add no cost to the baseline under staff's warranty lengthening proposal. This vehicle represents 40% of the total population based on the cost analysis. In this second example, we have a brand new Class 8 sleeper cab again with the same purchase price of $140,000. Except this time, the purchaser opts not to buy an extended warranty at the time of sale, so he's limited to only a total warranty of 100,000 miles. The purchaser finances the sleeper cab for 5 years at 6% interest, resulting in a finance charge of $22,396. The total capital cost of ownership for this cab would then be the $140,000 purchase price plus the financing, which equals $162,396. Now, the same vehicle under staff's proposal would increase in cost by $2,500 so that the new purchase price of the vehicle, including the extended warranty, would be $142,500 because it now includes the extended 350,000 mile warranty. After financing, the total capital cost of ownership would be $165,295, as in the previous example. Our cost analysis would consider this vehicle to add $2,899 to the baseline, according to staff's warranty lengthening proposal, or the equivalent of $48 per month for a 5-year term at 6%. This vehicle, however, represents only 15% of the total population of the cost basis. Another 45% of Class 8s would add minimal cost to the baseline because they would only be adding 100,000 miles coverage, going from 250,000 mile base warranty to 350,000 mile extended warranty. As mentioned in a previous slide, low mileage vehicles, vocational vehicles, often travel far less than 100,000 miles over a 5-year period. These vehicles currently fall out of warranty based on the 5-year limit rather than the mileage limit, and would continue to do so regardless of any length and warranty mileage period requirement. Therefore, extending the warranty mileage limit has no practical impact on these vocational vehicles, either from an emissions perspective or a cost perspective. Staff's proposal would not necessitate any changes to vocational vehicles. Therefore, we would not expect to see an increase in purchase price as a result of our proposal. With that said, we would prefer not to have to create a separate warranty period or other requirements for vocational vehicles, because that could potentially create extra work for our certification group, who are already overburdened. However, with that said, we do welcome further discussion on the necessity of a separate warranty period for vocational vehicles. The primary reason we decided to scale back the length of our proposed warranty periods from useful life to their current values of 350,000 and 150,000 miles was to afford component manufacturers extra lead time to investigate more durable parts should re-engineering become necessary. For the future, however, suppliers will need to structure contracts with manufacturers taking into account the need for longer warranty periods. Suppliers and manufacturers must find a way to better share data with each other to more quickly figure out why a part is failing and how best to fix it. Furthermore, there needs to be a clear understanding regarding the chain of responsibility for warranty repairs between manufacturer and supplier. At our July 12, 2017 workshop, staff shared some preliminary data from a survey performed for us by the Sacramento State Institute for Social Research. The purpose of the survey was to help us better understand the warranty cost structure of currently offered extended and corporate warranties. This slide lists some key findings from the survey. Data such as the 40% of all new vehicles having extended warranties and the average cost of repairs were instrumental in helping us calculate the projected costs of this proposal. Ms. Barbara Kirshner, the principal investigator of the survey, has been kind enough to call in for today's workshop. And after I finish the next 2 slides, I'll ask her to introduce herself and to answer any questions you have regarding the survey.
Jeff, could I just interrupt for just a second?
Sure.
Sorry, I'm receiving a couple of comments from folks that are watching the webcast asking, when will the slides be available? So I just want to make sure that everyone who's watching the webcast realizes that the slides and all the handouts have already been posted. Those were posted yesterday, and we sent out the link for those with our listserv. They're on ARB's Heavy Duty Low NOx page. And if anyone needs the link for that, just send me an email and I'll provide it to you again.
Thanks. As it stands right now, a hearing of the Resources Board to consider staff's proposed amendments to the on-road heavy-duty warranty regulations is scheduled for this May 24th, 2018, in Sacramento, California, at the Sacramento City Hall building. This is a different location than the Cal EPA headquarters building, where we normally hold CARB hearings, so please take note. However, as always, board dates and locations are subject to change. So keep an eye peeled for listserv announcements related to the warranty rulemaking. If you haven't already done so, I strongly encourage all stakeholders to subscribe to the HD Low NOx listserv from the CARB website homepage. If anyone has questions or comments that he or she would prefer to discuss in a private or confidential manner, please feel free to contact one of the staff listed above. Start at the bottom, though. Thank you for participating in today's workshop. I'll now turn over the microphone to Ms. Kirshner.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Barbie Kirshner, and I am the primary investigator for the current study that we're discussing this morning. And sorry I can't be there in person today, but I hope to be at the board hearing meeting in May. But I'm happy to answer any questions for you about the study and the research that was conducted. Our basic aim was to develop the surveys to assist CARB to gain insight in the cost structure and related manufacturer, consumer expenses, et cetera, for on-road heavy-duty vehicle warranties. And so hopefully our findings have helped kind of inform the decisions that will be made in the future. But I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has regarding the study.
Thank you, Barbie.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Matt Trapp with Velocity Vehicle Group. Quick question for Barbie. The 40% of new engines sold, is that in California, or is that a total survey of all Class 8 engines sold?
So we conducted our study only among California truck owner-operators, and so that represents the specific folks that we spoke to. So 40% of the folks that we spoke to or responded to the survey, that's what that statistic is covering.
And Barbie, did that 40% include all classes 4 through 8? Do you recall?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that was for all classes. I believe.
Are there any more questions for Barbie regarding the survey? No? Oh, I see a couple of hands. Hold on.
Hi, this is Matt again. I was just going to hold on to the mic, but I figured I'd give someone else a chance. Real quick, I know you guys did surveys, and I'm assuming you had talked to OEMs and dealers, but where did that $2,500 number come from specifically? You're looking at an upcharge of what the baseline included warranty is, and then to push it to $350 would be $2,500 in your guys' assumption?
I'm not sure what you're
So
looking
that's
at.
not part of the survey, right? That's, he's asking about part of ARB's cost analysis. So let's just hold that question for just a moment, and we'll be sure to answer that. But maybe for now, if there's any other questions concerning the survey.
Hi, this is Mike Geller from Mika. I just had a question, sort of a follow-on and then an extra question. But the first one was, I noticed that some of the assumptions that staff made was based on, or said that there was a breakout between Class 4 and 8 and then a Class 8 number. Did the survey also break down that 40% by class?
I would have to look at the report to get the exact numbers there, but yes, I'm sure we have broken it out as well. We looked, we inspected the data for all, the various class sizes. So.
Okay, and just a clarifying question: is there more detail on what the sort of the definition of repairs was in the survey when you asked the question? What was included in that number that led to the $2,131 per vehicle?
Right. So those were, we did break out in a separate question specific repairs, and so they could the survey respondent could select any and all repairs that they may have had in the previous year, But that specific question was a general question of how much they believe they had spent on repairs.
And Mike, I'd like to add, the survey, the final report is now complete, and we'll be making that available for everyone. There will be charts that show what components were being considered as malfunctioning and stuff like that. Barbie, with that said, is the report posted at ISR? Is it publicly available?
We have not posted that yet, but certainly with CARB's approval, we would be happy to put that up on our website.
Okay, I was just curious. We'll make sure that it's available to the public now that it's final. Thank you.
Oh, great.
Hi, good morning. Chris Mays from Borg Warner. The question on the survey, was it just original purchases of brand new vehicles that were surveyed, or did it include second purchases of second-hand equipment, used equipment?
Right, so that's a very good question. And we, because there are, so many, reaching the truck owner and operators and having them respond to a survey where one truck owner operator might have 10 trucks or, part of a larger fleet, we narrowed it down to where the truck owner would think of only one of their trucks in their fleet if they had more than one. And those trucks could have been as old as I believe it was 2007 was our cutoff date. So they had to be at least less than 10 years old, and then they would respond with what age the truck was.
But Barbie, do you remember when you cross-queried the data to get that 40% number? Do you remember looking at only 2016 and 2017 model year engines? Do you remember that? Because we wanted it just for new engines. We just wanted that number.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, when, it's been so long since doing the original analyses, but, and I'm trying to think back, but yeah, if I know I responded to your queries in that regard and provided information with that, and so, I like I said, I don't remember on that specific question, but that's likely, if that's what you asked me to do, that's what I did.
Yeah, what we wanted to know was the percentage of new vehicles that came from the factory with extended warranties or that people purchased, immediately when they bought the engine. So we limited it to 2016 and 2017 model year engines.
Okay. Yeah.
Any more questions?
One more.
Oh, I see a couple of hands, Barbie. You're not done yet.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah. My name is Kiran Avadanla, and I currently work for Honeywell Turbo Technologies. Previously, I worked for Caterpillar and Case New Holland. Are the dealerships that you surveyed, do you have any, the dealerships have certain skill level? Usually OEMs provide, like this dealership has a skill set, like technician skill set, like level 1, level 2. That actually kind of, what will happen like when with the new advent of technologies, if the technicians are not certified at a particular dealership, we tend to see a larger warranty costs. So do you have any data that, out of these dealerships, technicians are certified at this level of skill level 1, skill level 2?
Right. Unfortunately, we did not collect that information when we spoke to repair shops. Some of them were repair shops, and some of them were dealers that provide repairs for those type of vehicles. But unfortunately, we did not collect that specific data.
Okay, thank you.
Via email, we've received a question concerning the survey. Mike Tunnell from ATA asked if the survey questions are available, and we are certainly happy to email those out. We have not posted those, but we can provide that to anyone who's interested. And as Jeff mentioned, since the survey will be one of the sources that we cite in our staff report, we will be posting the full survey report along with all the other information we relied on in our emission benefit estimates and stuff. So we will be posting that, and we're happy to provide it now to anyone who's interested.
Right, and the full survey for both the owner-operators and the repair shops are appendices in the full report as well. So.
Hello, Barbie. Matt Schrapp from Velocity Vehicle Group again. Just a couple quick questions and then to button this up here. When you say owner-operators, and you kind of alluded to, well, it could be a single truck guy, maybe they have more trucks. Is there an average fleet size that you have of those 539 HDV owner-operators?
We simply asked folks at the beginning of the survey how if they owned one truck, two trucks, or more than two trucks. So we did not get an exact number of, mainly because we wanted them to only respond about one truck, because otherwise it would kind of get meaningless if they're answering one question about one of their vehicles and another, you know. So unfortunately, we did not collect the fleet size, the full fleet size information, only whether or not they have more than two trucks.
Great, and thank you for that. And I'm sure all of us will be looking forward to reading through the survey and some of the questions, but I'm sure for CARB's staff's sake, they can appreciate that without determining how many trucks an individual fleet has in it, it's impossible to ascertain whether or not they're actually maintaining and keeping up with service intervals, et cetera. I can tell you that if you're a single truck owner-operator, the likelihood of you buying a brand new truck is limited, if not non-existent, unless you have a grant attached to it. So that's one thing. Fleets have typically, a lot of them have their own shops where they perform their own maintenance. They aren't needing to go to outside OEMs to perform unless it's major warranty work. So that might want to be delved into a little deeper. The other thing is that we're talking about one truck here in the survey. We have here average over 500,000 miles of $2,131 in average cost over 500,000 miles. And I heard her say that we at least wanted a 10-year-old truck to identify what those costs would be. Is that right? I heard a 2007
No,
truck.
it's just that we allowed folks to answer regarding a truck as old as a 2007, I believe, was the cutoff.
But you don't know what year it was actually that they were referring to, or we do?
We did collect that information as well, and so there is, let me see what the average, I pulled the study up here, so let me find where the average age of truck. And we did break it down, I believe, we broke it down by class as well. If somebody has another question, I can look this up for you, and I'm not finding it right at this second.
That's okay. I think it's just to the larger point that when ARB is presenting this information to the regulated community, whether you're an in-use, end-user, owner-operator, or you're Schneider, or you're a truck dealer or a truck repair facility, I mean, this data doesn't necessarily give us, I can't sit here and say, well, on average, it's going to cost $2,100 after you get over 500,000 miles. Besides the fact, according to your guys' own deterioration rates, it's not the new trucks that have the problem. Granted, there are issues with some parts that were failing, and manufacturers have taken steps to remedy that issue. But I'm not sure how indicative of this is. And with all due respect to the survey and the process and the Barbie and the group, I don't know. Isn't there over 1 million vehicles operating in California? And we interviewed 549 owner-operators. Were they all California-based, by the way?
These were all California-based truck operators, and I understand. We certainly in survey research we cannot survey the entire population. So we worked diligently to ensure that we have a representative population of whatever that sample is that we're looking at. And so we made sure that that the distribution of folks that we interviewed or surveyed was representative of truck driver and owners in California. And I did find in the meantime here the year, so it was quite evenly distributed as far as the age of the truck that folks were responding regarding, just about 10% across the board from 2008 to 2016, with a few percentage that had a brand new truck at that time. But many of those, even used trucks, were purchased towards, the bulk of them were purchased by 2014 through 2016. I don't know if that helps.
Well, it's one thing if they were purchased in that time frame as opposed to what the actual engine model year is, obviously. And with all due respect to ISR, I know you guys are limited in the amount of information you can glean from truck owner operators, and having been working with this industry for the last 15 years, I can tell you that they're reluctant to answer questions about a lot of things. Regardless, they're going to be using this information for a rulemaking that's going to impact California-only operators. Because if I'm coming in from Texas or Nevada, and sorry, Barbara, I'm on a soapbox here, but if I'm coming in from Texas or Nevada with a federally recognized engine, I don't need this warranty enhancement. So it's just, from everyone's perspective, I think that just these bullet points of this survey, which I'm sure is very comprehensive, to use this and cite this for regulatory development seems, I don't know, for lack of a better term, disingenuous.
Maybe I can jump in here. I think you might have a bit of a misconception about how heavily we relied on the survey findings. Like, it was definitely a helpful survey, particularly to gauge people's attitudes and get a rough idea of, what people think they're spending on repairs and how big a deal downtime is for them. But we didn't rely on this heavily in estimating the cost of the benefits for our rulemaking. And so maybe now would be a perfect time to jump to answering the question you had. I think you were asking, like, well, how do you know? How did you come up with an estimate for how much this rulemaking might increase the capital cost of a vehicle? So let me turn it over now to Dr. Jason Hill-Falkenthal, who was...
Excuse me, I have a question. One more question.
No, if you could hold that, please. I'm going to have our person answer the question we received before, and then we'd be happy to go to your question. Okay?
Got it.
Thanks. So Jason, could you just walk through kind of how we came up with that cost estimate, and also all this will be written up in detail in our staff report for people to review and comment on. So Jason?
He said he'd have headphones on. You may want to text him.
Hey, I'm here. Sorry, okay. The webcast is on delay. I just heard it on the webcast. This is Jason Hill-Falkenthal. Hello?
Yeah, Jason, could you answer the question? We got the question of how we estimated the capital cost increase. Could you walk through that, please?
Oh, okay. Yes. So we looked at the manufacturer warranty claims data that was submitted to us, and we analyzed all of the warranty claims from the 2012 model year diesel engines to estimate the projected repair rates for different engine components. And then we reached out to manufacturers and repair shops and looked at repair invoices to estimate the average repair cost for each of those components. And based on multiplying the projected failure of the part from the warranty claims data times the cost of the repair, we calculated what an average vehicle would face in repair costs under the current warranties.
So, and one thing to add is that we knew there'd be questions concerning how we came up with the benefits and the cost. So we plan to have a sit-down meeting with EMA and their members to discuss that. And if anyone else would like to either join that meeting or have a separate discussion with us to go through kind of with the spreadsheets and in detail what data we used, we'd be very happy to do that.
That's great, and thank you. But the question was, how did you get to $2,500 being the cost of the warranty upgrade? Not necessarily how you reached, how much is it going to cost on an average for repairs. I understand that. That sounds very plausible, but I'm just wondering where that $2,500 number came from. That's kind of be curious. And also 6% and amortizing out, and you're talking a few $100s extra in. And first of all, if it's a single truck owner operator, I can guarantee he's probably not getting 6% APR. That's one thing. But the other thing would be interesting to know exactly where that number came from, because, you know, and we're looking forward to seeing what this data is, but individual manufacturers and individual engine manufacturers especially possibly have different failure issues and failure rates. And if they're all being pooled together in one bucket and then determining, well, this is what the average cost is, when one manufacturer might have a little more susceptible to failures in one particular group of parts or something. So this data would be helpful. Obviously, there's a lot of questions, and you guys have a lot of work to do. Obviously, we're here as a regulated community to help you guys, but I mean, where'd the $2,500 number come from? Where did 6%? You guys are just assuming these things, and it makes it sound rosy. It's only going to cost you $48 more, and we're going to save you $2,500 on the life of the truck. I don't know. I'm just wondering where that $2,500 number came from.
So again, the 2,500 estimate was based on the submitted warranty claims rates. So we looked at those warranty claims and projected the repairs that currently occur under warranty and the estimated costs. And then we projected that out further based on our proposed, where the proposed warranty will go. So for example, I think off the top of my head, based on the warranty claims rates for heavy duty vehicles, currently we projected that it was about, I think, $2,300 for an average vehicle. And then we projected that out further based on the mileage increases of our proposed amendment.
Yeah, I think Paul needs to do it. Paul, can you put us back to the presentation? We may have some slides that could shed some light on this question. Yeah, thanks.
Jason, did you hear the question? So Tim French, I think, asked.
No, I have not. I have not yet.
It's 2012 model year data over a 5-year period. So it's tracked the 2012 model in 2013, 2014, 15, 16, maybe 17 too.
Yeah, through 2017. It's the most recent data set that's completed what we estimate the typical 5-year warranty length.
Okay. I can't even see it.
They were unscreened.
Unscreened, yes. This is
So the slide we have here, it kind of indicates what Jason was talking about just now as the components of interest, the total claims, and the average claim rate, which is, again, based on the total number of engine sales, vehicle sales for the 2012 model year. I know it's a little hard to see.
And just to reiterate, so the logic that we used was if we require manufacturers to offer longer warranties, there'll be some additional cost that those manufacturers will have to pay to cover failures that now would be the responsibility of the vehicle owner. And so we're assuming that the manufacturers raise the cost, the capital cost of the vehicles to cover that. And so that's why we started with the warranty claim rates, to try to get an idea of how frequently these parts fail. And admittedly, there isn't perfect data out there. Like, we don't have data for exactly today's engines, and there's also thresholds. We only get warranty data if failures occur above a certain threshold. So there's some uncertainty there. There's uncertainty in exactly how manufacturers will decide to react to this. They could eat the cost. They could try to pass on cost plus profit to vehicle buyers. We're not sure, but what we've tried to do is come up with the most reasonable, defensible analysis we could. So with that, I think that covers the answer to that question. I would be happy to take additional ones. I cut somebody off who had a question.
Yeah, this is Larry Wyluta with Premium 2000. And I have a question on page number 28, the slide, the last bullet point states that there was a significant number of days, greater than 3,600, of lost revenue, greater than 1.6 million due to downtime. I'd like a little bit of clarification on that as to, is it a cumulative number? Is it, how is that ascertained?
Barbie, are you still online? Do you have some
Yeah,
background?
I'm here.
Okay.
So thank you for your question. And that is taking all respondents together, what their number of days of downtime collectively, and then averaging out, by year of the truck and by the number of the cost of repairs and the number of days of their downtime as a whole among those who responded to our survey. That is how many days of downtime and lost revenue for those folks.
It'll be easier to understand once you actually see the survey, and we'll get that out as soon as possible.
Okay.
Tim, I heard your question. Okay. And yes, we will make those available to everyone.
Thank you. I'd also like to comment, there was a comment about the 40%, and that number may not being statistically significant. That may be so, I don't know. But the 40% was very close to 50% that we were told by EMA and by other members of industry. So we think the survey was pretty much on target for that. Also, the 2131 cost, average cost of repairs per vehicle over 508,000 miles, that also was very close to some numbers that we've seen from in-use warranty providers, third-party folks. So again, the numbers are pretty close. Now, Barbie, my question to you is, I know we had a limited number of respondents. Do you know what the error margin was based on those numbers of respondents?
That was a plus or minus 5%.
Plus or minus 5%. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, again, just one quick question. On that 40% number from the data from EMA, et cetera, is that nationwide data or is that California only? Because last time I checked, especially the Diesel Technology Forum did a study on penetration of 2011 trucks with 2010 engines, and California was at the bottom. So I'm curious about that.
This is among those who we surveyed. So these are findings just from the this survey time.
Thank you, Barbie. I was actually referring to Jeff's statement about that, but thank you very much, Barbie, for clarifying. Jeff, I was kind of curious, did EMA differentiate between penetration of California sales versus nationwide, and is that where that 40% number came from, or was it?
They did not differentiate in the letter that I saw, and no, their number was 50%. The 40% that came from the survey, keep in mind that that's for all classes. It was an average. Okay, it's very unlikely that the class 4 and 5s, are being sold new with a 500,000 or 417,000 mile warranty. So that indicates that the average is biased, and that it really should be higher than 40%. So again, my point was that the numbers are fairly close to what we've seen from EMA and from others who have told us the same thing, given us the same number, 50%. I don't know if that's nationwide. But if it's being provided to us as a comparison, I would suspect it's for California.
Yeah, Joe Rekovets, Western States Trucking Association. Obviously, it's kind of tough to comment on a survey without actually getting into it. But just kind of anecdotally, what you've presented, what I'm seeing here today, from what I hear from our members, even fleet members, this is follows in line what you're presenting with what we're hearing. I mean, our fleet owners, and we're not talking guys with 2 and 3 and 4 trucks, we're talking people with dozens of vehicles. They will all universally tell you, in order to have 10 operating trucks today that you can commit in the marketplace, you got to have an 11th truck. They will all tell you that.
Are there any other questions for Barbie regarding the warranty? Okay, looks like you're done, Barbie. Thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate your time and your effort, your hard work.
Certainly, thank you so much. And if feel free to put my email address out there for folks if they have further questions that they would like clarification. I don't mind responding to that.
Will do. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so I have a question that came in via the webcast that I can relay. So Kate Canabe of Horwood, Marcus and Burke Chartered, which I believe must be a law firm, says vocational vehicle warranty coverage usually ends at 3,000 hours, not 5 years. So there will be a cost impact. So maybe that's a good opportunity, Jeff, to walk through what we're doing with the 3,000 hour limit and how that would change.
I'm sorry, would you read the question?
Yeah, vocational vehicle warranty coverage usually ends at 3,000 hours, not 5 years. So there will be a cost impact.
That's an excellent point. We've broached that with our inventory folks. They don't think it's a significant increase, but yes, we agree with that statement. It will end at least in California, it will tap out at the 3,000 hour mark before the 5-year mark. But if we do away with the 3,000 hour mark as proposed, then we're back to the 5-year.
Jeff, can you just walk through, so currently what the situation is with California having that 3,000 hour limit and how the feds don't and how we're proposing to remove it, just to make sure we're clear on the
Right, in
proposal.
addition to 100,000 miles in 5 years, California has a 3,000 hour limit for diesel engines only. EPA does not currently have it. I don't believe that they ever had a 3,000 hour limit. Our rationale in aligning with EPA is that these are essentially the same engines, the same vehicles that are being operated in California that are being certified federally. If the manufacturer can certify federally without the 3,000 hour limit, then we don't understand why it can't be done in California. And again, we want to align with EPA, otherwise we have a less stringent requirement.
A quick follow-up question along that same line. Sean Edgar with Clean Fleets. So could you distinguish between, we're talking about 3,000 hour engine warranty and emissions components with the engine. We're not talking about total vehicle warranty, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Good morning, Tim French with the Truck and Engine Manufacturers Association. I'm hoping this is the time for general questions.
Sure.
All right, good. First of all, we want to thank you for your work on this. It's a complicated issue. It's an important issue, and we appreciate the time and care and diligence you're putting into it. We appreciate the dialogue that we've been able to have about it, and we look forward to a follow-up meeting, probably timeline. Think about beginning of February, because we're still doing a little bit of homework. But first and foremost, thanks for your efforts on this. We appreciate the slight scaling back of the warranty periods. We think that is appropriate given the lead time concerns you cited, and also given our concerns about
where future low NOx technologies might take us, and not wanting to have unintended consequences of hampering certain technology pathways if we've locked in certain maintenance intervals or whatever. So that's a very good development, and thank you very much for that. We are generally supportive of the notion of extending minimum maintenance intervals for emission-related components where appropriate, and certainly some of the proposals that you've got out there right now seem reasonable. We are looking into that, and our hope is to, within the industry, develop a fairly comprehensive list of those emission-related components with associated extended maintenance intervals and be in a position to present that to you within a couple of weeks, and that's something that we can drill down. In that regard, we are hopeful that the proposed treatment of turbochargers as components that could never be replaced during full useful life is something maybe we could revisit. We're hopeful that if we have an extended maintenance interval for minimum maintenance interval for turbochargers, that might allay some of the concerns on this. Again, we don't want to necessarily put more components into that thou shalt never basket than we might otherwise need to, just in case it's going to foreclose other technology pathways that we might want to look at. Similarly, just in terms of whether or not there's some treatment in the reg that might be overbroad, the notion of defining in the heavy-duty space emissions-related components, including anything that could trigger an OBD mill, we think that could be a little bit problematic, again, because there's some components or some mills that are lit, for example, for brake fluid or coolant levels. I mean, there's some mills that clearly come on that aren't really related to what we're looking at here, and you're really starting to maybe end up in a situation where your emissions warranty is a full powertrain warranty, and you're kind of convoluting those two things. So what we'd like to discuss with you a little bit further when we have the chance is at time of certification now, manufacturers really have to lay out in full detail what their emissions-related components are. And that list grows and gets more sophisticated as these systems grow and get more sophisticated. We also know that the OBD rule is sort of an ever-evolving rule every 2 years, and we don't necessarily want to be tied forever to an ever-evolving OBD system that all of a sudden automatically carries over. Long story short, on this one, we are developing and do develop with your cert staff fairly comprehensive lists of what these emission-related components are, and we'd like to visit with you about that reality and whether or not that mitigates some of the need for the tie over to OBD, because we think that could be a little bit problematic. Also, in terms of emission warranty duration, right now the reg's proposing to tie it to vehicle class and GVWR. It's probably better at the end of the day, and we can talk about it more, to tie it to engine certification category. Light heavy, medium heavy, heavy heavy, because you can have a medium heavy that goes into class 8. You can have a heavy heavy that sometimes might drop down into a class 7. So it might be better. You don't have to change the durations, but just tie them to the engine certification type, not necessarily vehicle weight. But that's a fine point we can discuss more down the road a little bit. We're likely to have other technical comments. For example, in the regs, there's an ambiguity about turbochargers being not replaceable versus some language that talks about intervals of 100,000 or 150,000. We'll want to clear up some of these potential inconsistencies, and we can talk about those issues with you more as well. But in sum, I think we are on a path, and I want to communicate that to you on behalf of our industry. I think we are on a path to a consensus-based rulemaking here. We do appreciate the effort that you're putting into it, and I think if we have another couple iterations, we'll get to where we need to be. So thank you all very much for your work on this.
Well, thank you, Tim. Just made my day.
Again, Joe Rakovets, Western States Trucking Association. I'd just like to make a general comment on behalf of our association that we are supportive of what CARB is doing here in protecting truck buyers for an extended period of time related to the emissions components. I know there's concerns, and you've probably certainly heard them, that somehow this will cause new vehicle owners to jump a state line to avoid the incremental cost increase. You know, I'm somebody who did truck out of Wisconsin for decades. And you know, my nice Peterbilt JX Enterprise jacket on right now cost over $100,000. I threw in a free truck. The reality is Wisconsin has a lemon law. Every OEM in here knows that. There are very few states that sell as many commercial motor vehicles as Wisconsin. You know, we're actually even proposing a lemon law extension in California to cover heavy-duty vehicles. But at any rate, I think the concerns that people are going to jump around the United States to save that incremental amount that you identified, even if it's a little more than that, I think that is misplaced. When a state like Wisconsin can cover commercial motor vehicles under a lemon law, and you have significant heavy-duty truck sales there, that says it all.
This is Matt.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to just say thank you
Sure.
for being here, and thank you for voicing your support for our proposal. We really appreciate it. Sorry, go ahead.
Thanks, Kim. And thank you, Joe. And I think that it's pretty clear that this would be for California certified. DMV is not going to let you register a non-California certified engine in California. So there is no way out. The issue is how much is it going to cost the end user? And I think that there needs to be some sunshine in exactly how those costs are being calculated. Because it sounds like that $2,500 number, you guys just kind of made it up based upon all the information that you got together. Again, with all due respect, I know this is, and you hear EMA, they're supportive of it. You hear the end users are supportive of it. End users want more protection. It's completely understandable. But when you're a captive fleet in California, your cost of doing business is different. And I'm sure that any of my association brethren would agree with that. And so your responsibility, I guess, is to make sure that the costs are reflective of reality. And be that as it may, yes, repairs have changed, and I can say that OEMs have made a lot of adjustments over the years, seeing failure rates of certain things. So, you know, we're looking to protect the end user, the consumer, which is, everybody can appreciate that. But we shouldn't be Pollyanna about how much this is going to cost and just decide, well, it's going to cost you $2,500 extra, but we're going to save you $2,300. It's only going to cost you $48 a month to do so.
I'd like to suggest, it sounds like you've got a lot of questions and potentially suggestions about how we do our cost analysis. So I'd like to suggest that we sit down with you one-on-one and go through it in detail. We have, there'll be a cost chapter as well as an appendix for our staff report, and we have a draft of that as well as some spreadsheets. We'd be happy to walk through that, and if you have any suggestions for different assumptions we should be making, that would be great. And I should also say our intent here is not to try to minimize the significance of the fact that this is likely to increase the capital cost of trucks. We're not trying to make it seem like that's no big deal or something. We're just trying to come up with an accurate estimate of what the impacts would be.
Matt Smith from Navistar. I've got a question with regard to trucks that are brought into the state of California and how this warranty would be applied to vehicles sold in California and used vehicles brought into California. I thought in earlier discussions we had indicated that any new trucks sold in the state of California would basically be covered by this, but if you are bringing a 1 to 2 year old truck into the state of California, it would still be able to be registered in the state of California, would not necessarily have this additional warranty on it. That would be the first question. And internally, Navistar has also done some analysis on this as well, and we believe the costs are going to be substantially higher, and they will be passed on to the consumer.
Well, Matt, I guess I'll talk to your second part of your question first. So in this meeting today, there's been a lot of talk about how our costs were developed and so on. And we recognized when we started developing this proposal a year and a half ago or 2 years ago that, there's a lot of information we needed to find out about heavy-duty warranties in general, and one of them was the cost. And so this is the third workshop we've had, and we've had an external work group meetings. And in all those meetings, we've always been honest and said, we don't know much. We need to learn. There's a lot we need to learn. Please help us. So if you have any information, we're all ears. Some stakeholders, they obliged us and they did come forward with information, and we appreciate that. We're very thankful for your help. I'm just saying it again, if there is information, that you have on not just costs or anything that's relevant to what our proposal is about, we welcome it. So Matt, if you have cost information, we. Okay. Well, and yes. Right.
For the benefit of our webcast folks, would you mind please speaking into a mic? And also, I think there was a first part of your question where you asked about would this cover used vehicles, like a used vehicle that comes into California, but it's still like within the mileage period or within the 5 years? And no, it wouldn't. So this rulemaking is only covering vehicles new sold in California. And now we would have liked to be pursuing this rulemaking arm in arm with our federal partners and have this take effect nationally. That's not the political reality right now. However, we're hopeful that the feds will see how wildly successful this program is, and they'll align with us right early in 2021. And I should add more seriously that we have been working really closely with the EPA staff that work on similar programs, and they're following this, and we're getting their technical input and making sure they're clued in on what we're doing, and they're watching this webcast right now. So we are hopeful that eventually the California and federal programs could be aligned, and that would take care of some of the concerns that I hear about, well, would there be an incentive to buy outside of California, or unfair that the rules are different in California?
Thank you, Kim. I thought it was consistent. I just wanted to make sure nothing has changed since some of the previous discussions. Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Ron.
Chris Mays from Borg Warner again. We've seen some of the instance rates of the components shown on the added documents that you say you'll share. I know we had the opportunity for dialogue when we spoke with you on the phone, and that's good to have the opportunity. Again, to reiterate, some of those failure rates are based on poor diagnostics at some of the dealers and the inability to pinpoint the root cause. A lot of the components come back to us with no fault found when we look at them. Or they're a symptom of something else in the engine that causes a problem, such as an incorrect oil being used. And so I think someone mentioned about unscreened data versus screen data earlier on. It's very important to look at the screen data to identify when the correct root cause was found and identified in the vehicle, and actually only address the costs of those, not look at all the other costs where components have been changed, just trying to get to the actual root cause. Again, it comes to a symptom-based diagnostic as opposed to getting to the true root cause diagnostic. So as we develop this rule, there is an important need for dealers to use correct diagnostic information and to have the best tools and abilities and training applied to them to help the customers get the true benefit and not have time off-road unnecessarily.
I'd like to respond a little bit. First of all, thanks so much for being here today and also for talking to us earlier. We found the dialogue with you extremely helpful and enlightening. One thing is, when we're estimating costs, I'm thinking it may actually be better for us to be using the unscreened claims, because what will sort of practically, I think one thing you're commenting on is that practically what happens is that manufacturers now, either under the 100,000-mile warranty or under extended warranties that folks have purchased, they often end up just sort of covering something to get that truck back on the road before they're sure exactly what failed and exactly why. A comment that we've heard from you guys and from other parts manufacturers is concern that you don't have great data on exactly the frequency of your parts failing, because the data doesn't ever make it back to the parts manufacturers. Maybe the truck owner is just interested in getting back on the road as fast as they can. The dealer wants to make sure that their customer is happy. So we don't think there's a perfect system now where data on exactly how frequently parts are failing and what exactly the conditions of those failures were is not always making it back to the parts manufacturers. And we're thinking that one positive outcome of this rulemaking will be there's sort of increased attention on this issue. I mean, the whole point of our doing this is to try to ensure that emission controls work for as long as trucks are on the road so the air stays clean. And so I think us sort of shining light on this and extending the mandatory period of warranty coverage and sort of having all these workshops and getting people talking about this is likely to improve the communication among parts makers like you, engine manufacturers that buy your parts, vehicle manufacturers, sort of get everybody gathering that data and sharing it a bit more efficiently because they'll have a greater financial incentive to do so. And we think that would sort of benefit everybody. So I hear what you're saying. We're definitely on board with trying to get the best data possible and understand what's really physically happening in the field. And we're hopeful that this rulemaking will help spur that. If you do want to, if you do have suggestions specifically about our cost analysis and whether we use screened or unscreened, we're happy to talk to you individually about that and get your thoughts.
This is Dave Case from Daimler Trucks North America. I have to suggest also that we stick to screen data when we deal with this, and it relates to both the cost issue of not conflating emissions-related failures with failures that are not emissions-related, maybe just some sort of maintenance because of, as was mentioned before, potentially using incorrect oils or otherwise using incorrect parts, malmaintenance, something like that. You don't want to conflate the real costs with the costs that are unrelated to what you're trying to do. And a second related point is that for the sake of manufacturer, technicians, repair facilities certainty, it would be important to make sure that we're talking about the correct emissions-related failures and not drawing in other failures. This goes back to a point that Tim had mentioned before about not having simply any problem that causes a mill to light be an emissions-related failure. When a manufacturer is rolling out a new set of technologies, let's say in 2010 or 2014 or whatever, as part of that, we do declare to the ARB what are going to be the emissions-related components that are covered by the warranty, and we have a list of those components, and we also give that information to the repair facilities so that they know in advance. If, by contrast, we were in a situation where there weren't a detailed list of what is an emissions-related component and what isn't an emissions-related component, it's going to be subject to the warranty, but rather somebody could just come in and if a cascade of failures that causes a mill light to occur, but also causes something unrelated to emissions, triggers a warranty, there's going to be a lot of confusion or uncertainty about is this covered, is this not covered, and like we're saying, there is a rush to get these vehicles back out into the field so that they're generating revenue. We would rather have the certainty up front, and so I recommend that what we do is a situation similar to today where we list out the emissions-related components and we have a discussion at the time of certification as to what is covered and what is not covered, and that be the list as opposed to a retroactive determination. I don't think it would be harming the ARB's interests if we have this discussion up front at the time of certification relative to having it after the fact. We generally know what are going to be the components that could cause a mill to light, and we know what are going to be the components that could cause an emissions-related defect, and we can cross-reference these things.
So David, you're arguing that rather than explicitly linking warranty to OBD, you'd rather just sort of do a more thorough job of listing all the possible parts that could be emission related. I'd like to see, we have Sharon Lemieux in the audience, and Sharon's the branch chief in charge of implementing our current warranty program. And I know
Just to,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
clarify, that was very close, but not exactly right. I think we do a pretty thorough job. So I just want to clarify that. I think we do a pretty thorough job, but yes, it's that we not just link the light, but we do a more thorough job of saying, if there's something that you feel is lighting the mills, but isn't causing emissions-related defects, that be added to the list of components.
Okay, that's helpful. So Sharon's here, and I'm going to put her on the spot. So Sharon runs our program where manufacturers report warranty claims data to us, and they handle recalls and all that kind of thing. And I know they've found it quite useful to rely on some OBD information, and it's kind of that, it was interacting with Sharon's staff was the reason that we came up with the idea for sort of explicitly connecting these in the regs. So maybe Sharon, can you comment, please?
Yes. So on light duty, as you guys know, it's very explicit. Anything that lights the mill is to be covered by warranty. So light duty manufacturers take an exorbitant amount of effort to make sure that that light does not go on for any other reason. So when you do have maintenance, they'll have wrench lights and red stop lights and things like that, but they will not light the mill. And I know Tom Montes was here earlier, but he would agree with me that even on heavy duty, manufacturers make an effort not to use the mill for anything that is not emission related. And as far as like these cascade type of failures, a variety of codes will be saved. So you'll know exactly what fails. So we think it's very important to link the mill on to be covered in warranty. And actually in practice, that's how most of our warranty claims are identified. It's through mill on lights, now that heavy duty does have OBD. So I think both is needed. You have a good upfront emission warranty list upfront at the time of certification, so it's clear what's covered and what's not covered. Make sure that the maintenance intervals are the ones that you cannot replace. Those are clear, but also to tie it to mill on failures. And I think that'll just be consistent with light duty, and it'll just be helpful when we do roll out the heavy duty OBD. I&M, I mean.
Let me, let's just hold that question for just a second. I think the quick answer is we're assuming it's all included. So I don't think we added a specific line item for that because of the fact that currently our warranty folks are already using the OBD data as a signal that something's broken. One point I did want to make, and in addition to the question of, do you want to connect to OBD and thereby sort of grab all the parts and components that OBD is monitoring, or do you want to try to have just have a list that you write down ahead of time? We want to make sure that we take advantage of sort of the power of the OBD system that's now required to be on all these vehicles. There's been this like huge engineering effort over the past decade to equip all these heavy-duty vehicles with this system that's watching, like a hawk, watching to see if there's an emissions failure. And we want to make sure that we get the advantage of that, right? If that light comes on, that means either there's an emissions increase or one of the monitors is broken, right? And so if we've got truck owners driving around, that's a really excellent signal that something's wrong and they need to get a repair done. We want to make sure that that's clear that, hey, if that something's wrong, you can go in, you can get that fixed. It's going to be covered under your warranty. So it's a greater issue than just, is it the same list of parts? We want to make sure that that signal is explicitly linked to being something that's covered under warranty. And one reason that we're thinking about this is because at the same time as this group is working on developing these warranty amendments, another group in my shop is working on developing a heavy-duty inspection maintenance program for trucks. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on truck owners to take care of their after treatment, to maintain their trucks, and to respond when that light comes on. We're thinking that system will be largely OBD based, right? You've got these systems on the trucks. We want to take advantage of that. So it seems to make logical sense if you guys have built all these trucks with this awesome system that puts a light on when there's an emissions problem. We want to pay attention to that light in the warranty context, and we also want to pay attention to that light in the heavy-duty inspection maintenance context.
This is Kiran Avdanla from Honeywell Turbo Technologies. I just want to reiterate, what gentleman from BorgWarner said. We have to look at the claims completely filtered, and most of these claims come through. Actually, we find, for the most of the customers, no trouble found. So, implementing the warranty extension, it's kind of counterproductive for engine manufacturer. So the dealer has more incentive to replace the turbo immediately and just move on, rather than actually looking into what the problem is. So, that does not help the entire situation.
Could I ask, I'm so sorry, Paul, I'm going to make you run it. Could you state again your name and affiliation? I didn't catch it at the very beginning.
My name is Kiran Avdanla. I work for Honeywell Turbo Technologies,
Okay.
and I worked for Caterpillar and Case New Holland before, and I've seen both ends of the world, and that's why I'm a little concerned about this.
Thank you. So a couple folks now have asked, why did you use unscreened warranty data? So I relayed that question to the person who did our cost analysis. I think we have a more complete set of unscreened warranty data, and I think we figured it would give us a sort of worst case cost estimate. Right. So if in some cases folks submit a warranty claim and it ends up, oh, that's not actually a valid claim, and so it would fall out of the data set. If you go to screen data, we would have attributed a cost, and whereas that cost wouldn't materialize in the real world. So I think we thought we were being conservative when we did it that way, but we can certainly talk more about it if people have suggestions for us doing it differently.
There was a concern about not all the parts being returned to the manufacturers. Like, you're not looking at all the turbos, right? But all the Tier 4 final, most of the off-road manufacturers that I know I worked with, they have mandatory recall to their facilities from the dealers. So in case they have done some software update, they do not replace the turbo, but they still they put it under, turbocharger company. Sometimes how it happens to be turbocharger is the most expensive component on the engine. They'll replace, I'm not saying every dealer does that, but we have seen the practices that they would report under certain different component than actually what the repair was. So we should look into these things, filtered warranty claims so that we can actually understand what the problem is. Thank you.
So I just want to clarify. So you meant under the off-road diesel equipment engine category that there is some feedback between when a failed part is replaced, does it go back to the part supplier?
Yeah, it does come back to the part supplier.
And is that required under a contractual agreement?
Yeah,
between?
It is required under the contractual agreement right now.
All right.
What we work with the dealers.
Thank you for clarifying.
Matt Smith from Davistar again. I'm glad that both our previous supplier and Honeywell Technologies and our current supplier BorgWarner are here because they make an incredibly durable part that is subjected to some of the worst conditions imaginable. The point of clarification, Kim, I just wanted to make sure that you're aware that when we do see failures in the field and these components come back, the individual OEMs are literally tied to resident engineers from the suppliers, in this case BorgWarner or Honeywell, at the company, and these failures are quickly identified. They are scaled up and addressed in very rapid fashion because, to the point mentioned, these are one of the most expensive subcomponents in the engine, and it's our deep earnest desire to basically find a corrective action, a root cause, address it as quickly as possible. The other point with regard to some of the screen claims and unscreened claims discussion, and also goodwill, I know we've had the discussion, and it bears repeating here, that for fuel injectors, many times we will find a customer may have a failed fuel injector, and the dealership may just automatically replace the entire set of injectors. And from a claims perspective, it may be one component that failed, but we essentially file 6 claims for 6 injectors. In many cases, with regard to turbochargers, injectors, and some of these other components, there's a lot of goodwill that basically goes on that gets reported as a claim failure, which was reflected in their no trouble found codes when those subcomponents are returned to the manufacturers. So, you know, we as an industry are doing our very best, but there are a lot of factors outside of our control.
No, thanks for that point. And I think as we've gone through this analysis, we've tried to make a conservative estimate of like what's a reasonable and sort of conservative high-end estimate of how much this could impact the cost of a truck, right? We want to make sure that we're aware of that. If it turns out that because we've used unscreened rates or because dealers are actually replacing 6 parts when they really only need to replace 1, then that would mean that the impact of this rulemaking will actually be less than what we're estimating. So maybe it'd be less of a big deal. But could I ask a question? So my impression from having talked to a bunch of parts makers and associations and various manufacturers is that the information flow is not perfect, that there's concern that they don't really know what parts are failing and why, and people are worried that if ARB extends the required warranty length, there'll be these huge costs that aren't predictable, and there'll be a lot of arguing over whose fault it is. I think I just heard Matt say, no, it's fine. We've got this great connection between our engineers and the engineers that make the parts. It's all fine. So can folks comment? Is my impression inaccurate? Or what are your thoughts on how well that information flows? Because there's so many different entities and companies involved in making the parts that end up being a truck. Any additional thoughts on that?
Matt Smith again, for those that are listening in. I think another point is, and a turbocharger is a fabulous example because this is arguably one of the most sophisticated, most complex components on a heavy-duty diesel truck. It's not like we can make changes to these components quickly because everything that is tied to that original design has been through a complete and total validation, the deterioration factor analysis, durability demonstration. All the OBD monitors have basically been validated on that particular component. So it may seem simple that we change the housing or electronics in a relatively or seemingly minor fashion, but it requires the full validation process to basically be undertaken again. That's something that's not readily apparent. The other point, when going back to the no trouble found and the goodwill, I know there are manufacturers and dealers that when they see a failure, and I'm just going to use an EGR cooler as an example, if there's a failure of the cooler, they recognize that there's probably cross-contamination between the coolant and the oil system, and when that happens, it tends to take out certain components within the turbocharger. So, some dealerships and manufacturers may preemptively say, if you've got a major cooler failure, pull the turbocharger off, even could also consider replacing the after treatment. As one of our other colleagues in the engine manufacturers mentioned, after treatments don't die, they're murdered. It's always the upstream components that tend to fail and take those downstream components out. And when we speak of the high failure frequencies of after treatment, to our MECA colleagues, it frequently is those upstream components, and there are many that can basically damage that component.
No, thank you. And that issue of upstream parts damaging downstream is part of the reason that we're paying so much attention to turbochargers.
To answer your question, the information systems are very well developed by most of the, at least I can speak for the off-road, applications, manufacturers, Caterpillar, Case New Holland, Deere. They have done they not only have diagnostics within the onboard diagnostics tools, but also they have a system where they can complain and dealers can look at each other's repair procedures also, so that they can don't have to replace the part. But what happens most of the time, if they have the parts covered under warranty, they have more incentive to just replace the part with you before even actually doing the proper diagnostics. That's what we have seen before in many cases. Especially, I work on a problem with the Case New Holland. We incur $5 million warranty within a launch of product within a couple of months, because they are replacing Bosch pumps. They are not actually doing any diagnostic. The main reason was what they were, basically customers were practicing injecting urea, with a lot of contamination. So, and it ended up damaging the Bosch pumps. We incurred $5 million warranty, and for no reason. All the pumps are very good, and we ended up paying that warranty to the customer, to the dealers, is only because they replaced the pumps. And these kind of things happen. I'm not saying in every case, but increasing the warranty period, I'm very skeptical about this. It will give an incentive to a dealer or a technician to replace the part, not even before even looking at the actual what's the problem is.
I do have some additional information to provide. There were a couple questions about why we used unscreened versus screened rates. It turns out the way the warranty reporting requirements are set up, we get more data on unscreened rates. There's a certain percentage, I think it's 1% claim rate, then they have to give us unscreened data, and there's a higher rate at which they have to give us screen data. Sharon, jump in if I'm garbling any of this. So we had a much better data set of the unscreened data. We didn't have an adequate data set of the screened data. So that's part of the reason we chose to use that in our analysis, in addition to it being sort of a more conservative worst case.
Hi, this is Mike Geller from Manufacturers of Emission Controls Association. Since you were asking a question, I just wanted to add just that it's not, going back to the last question about everyone's ability for getting data on some of these failure issues that may occur in use. It's not quite black and white. I think you would hear that certainly from some of the folks in the room that there are some cases that there's some very robust information sharing and some access to systems, and then there may be some others in the industry who are supplying components that may not have the same access. And it's more variable than just saying, parts manufacturers have that data. It's some have better access than others, and that's just what I'd just like to clarify.
Thanks, Mike.
My name is Erica Nielsen. I'm also from Borg Warner. I think the other point I just wanted to clarify with you based on our previous conversations was, we have good relationships with our customers within warranty. I think the point we were trying to make it to you is when we look outside the warranty period, often we only warrant our parts for a couple of years, and we don't often get the data back outside the warranty period for longer periods, which you are looking at, in order to guarantee our parts would meet those extended requirements. So our biggest concern came from the fact that we would need to work very closely with our OEMs to get access to data outside today's warranty periods in order to guarantee that we're building parts, and we would need times to build specs and validate parts to a more robust warranty and to a more robust product. That was our concern more than our relationship and our data supplying within warranty today.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And one thing I did want to say, it's maybe obvious, but we did shorten the proposed length of the warranties that we're proposing to require, and that's based on feedback from EMA, Borg Warner, many folks that we talked to, Mika, who said, yeah, this is we get what you're trying to do, this is a good idea, but it's such a big change. They were concerned that such a big change would be too much of a shock to the system. And so we've pulled back and hoping this would be a more gradual change. and we hope to sort of address this issue again when we do our broader low NOx rulemaking in a year or two. So hopefully this is, the bottom line here is we're trying to sort of put pressure on the system to make sure that after treatment keeps working and the air stays clean. And so hopefully this rulemaking will sort of nudge things in that direction. Via the email, there's Kate Canabay submitted some additional questions and suggestions concerning a 3,000 hour limit, and how we accounted for that in the cost analysis and stuff. And I will we'll reach out to her directly to answer that. I don't have any other questions that came to my email. Francine, did you get any? Okay.
Hi again. It's Mike Geller from Mika. I just wanted to generally overall say we really do appreciate the amount of time that's been spent going back and forth and having information sharing between ARB and the various stakeholders, including us, on this. And that's been reflected in some of the newer proposal numbers that have been put in there. So appreciate all the staff's time and effort in that. Also, just wanted to say that we'd be interested, I think, in following up a little bit more detail on some of the cost benefits analysis that's shown in here. So more specifically, maybe how the next step in the rule making process that you've indicated you're going to take for the low NOx rulemaking, how that was accounted for in your cost and benefits, and how that would maybe change these numbers in the out years, since that, in a couple of years when engines will be I guess experiencing or reflecting the newer warranty requirements post 2024 would also have this implied longer warranty, I think, as well. So just that 2-year period between the 2022 and 2024, if that's what these numbers are, or if there's a different subset of the cost benefits for that. And also want to follow up a little bit more, I think, on maybe some of the discussion around the time limit and hours limit, just to get a little bit more understanding on that and maybe offer some suggestions. Thanks.
So you don't have any specific suggestions concerning like the 3,000 hour limit or anything now?
I guess one of the questions I guess that I would have is just that I understand that one of the reasons is that there's I guess a desire to harmonize with EPA, although the other components of the rulemaking are not harmonizing with EPA. They're going beyond EPA, so it's kind of it's already not harmonized. So I don't understand quite the argument, but I know that your main point is that it's to prevent sort of that backsliding that EPA requires the states to not have anything that's less stringent. So the hours may not be easily perfectly defended. But I guess if there was a 3,000 hour warranty, I was wondering, and you were considering that again, you could use a similar analysis to extend that based on your multiplication factor of your mileage changes to see, especially in the vocational area, if those are some pretty high hour used engines that may not go too many miles, as was discussed earlier. Your own analysis seems to show that there may be some excess coverage there that wouldn't be covered under the 5 years, but they'll be covered longer than they would have if they had an hour's warranty.
I do think we think there would be some extension, but like you're saying, we think it'd be truncated by the 5 years.
Alex Zeck with AECOM. I do help the Marine Corps procure their truck and bus fleet. What's the tentative timeline for this proposed amendment with respect to feedback and upcoming 2024 proposed amendments?
I'm not totally sure I'm following your question. So we're planning to take this rulemaking to our board in May, and it would have an effective date with the model year 2022. And then we have a separate rulemaking that's looking at the sort of allowable level of NOx emissions and in-use compliance requirements and not to exceed and low load and all that kind of stuff that's currently slated for the end of 2019. And that one we think would take effect with the 2024 model year. Is that what you're asking about? Or are you asking about other measures?
Yeah, that answered it. Thanks.
And then I could also comment, Mike Geller was asking a bit about our cost analysis and how we took into account the fact that we're thinking of this as sort of step one of addressing warranty, and we know we're going to need to look at this topic again in a couple of years. The way we've done our analyses, and this is kind of generally how ARB looks at rulemakings when we're doing benefits and costs for rulemakings, is we take the baseline situation of the rules that are already on the books, and that's the baseline situation, and then we're evaluating versus that. So even though we know in our mind, oh, there's likely to be, tighter standards, and oh, we might reopen this, and maybe we'd even have longer required warranties, that's not figured into the numbers at all. So let's say in a couple years we suddenly said, okay, now we're going to say everyone has to have a 500,000 mile warranty or something. That's not included here. Those benefits would be totally separate and would be claimed for that future rulemaking, and similarly the cost would be attributed to that future rulemaking. The part where there is some interaction and overlap is that, of course, we know, our colleague Stefan is right here, who's the manager in charge of that low NOx rulemaking. So we're very well aware. We've talked extensively with the manufacturers. We're funding research. We know that we're, in addition to dealing with this issue, we're also looking forward and saying, hey, manufacturers, we think you could hit an even lower NOx standard. Maybe there's some additional technology you could put in your trucks that would make NOx lower, or that would do a better job of handling low temperature situations, right? We know that's going on. And so we do want to be very careful that everything we do here works together well with that proposal. We don't want to have unintended consequences. And so we're really sensitive to the issue, like what Tim French was bringing up. As we adjust the maintenance intervals, for example, we do want to make sure that we don't lock something in that then makes it harder for manufacturers to meet that new tighter NOx standard that we know is coming. So we're aware of that, and we're trying to make sure that the whole system kind of works together harmoniously.
This is Lisa McGee. I had a question. Have you considered, as it relates to low NOx fuels, and how that would be applied? Because some of the low NOx fuels are not warranted, would use, and I know that ARB is obviously supporting credits and so forth with low NOx fuels. So have you guys considered that in this rulemaking?
Can you explain more what you mean by low NOx fuels? Are you talking about like
B20 diesel is a low NOx fuel, and it's not accepted in the engines. So, just has there been any discussion as to how this would affect rulemaking, and since you're supporting the low NOx fuels and low NOx rulemaking period?
Oh, so you're asking about vehicle owners that might be choosing to use biodiesel? Is that that?
Well, engines that you can use a fuel, and if you want to support low NOx, instead of using dirty fuel, you could use biodiesel fuel. But engines don't support a warranty as if you're filling up with biodiesel fuel. So I just didn't know if you guys had any discussions with that as we're trying to.
I guess, as you can probably tell by the puzzled looks on our faces, you're not talking to the team here that's working on biodiesel. However, my understanding is that biodiesel can sometimes cause NOx increases. As far as the overlap with the warranty requirements, I'm actually, that might be something we need to dig into, because I'm actually not totally sure about when when the manufacturer issues their warranty coverage, they probably have some language in there that says, like, of course,
they do.
This warranty only applies if you use these fuels, and it doesn't apply if you stick these fuels in there that aren't supposed to be used. So is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it is true. And some states, you can use that exact same vehicle and fill it with B20, and then in California you can't. It's the same vehicle though. So I'm just curious where you guys are at with that. It sounds like you haven't approached that.
Well, so I guess I can say that we aren't proposing to require anything related to that. So we aren't saying, oh, manufacturers, you must provide a warranty that covers, allows people to use biodiesel. We're not proposing to change how that topic is currently handled. But if you do want to know more about that, we could certainly get you to the right people at ARB. I must admit, I'm not totally well-versed in that issue.
Okay, and then the next question I had was on the electrification transportation technology, warranty periods and rulemaking and how that would apply, because there is no tailpipe emissions, and as such, the requirement for a warranty period to match that useful life period doesn't have a requirement right now in Title 13. So how would zero emission types of vehicles with different failures of expensive parts, how is that being handled currently as it relates to this type of rulemaking? And the fact would be is that if there is a failure and everything that is 100% proprietary type of equipment and systems, then you are faced with longer periods of downtime, and that would also have an impact on emissions.
Well, Lisa, our proposal is really just specific to diesel fuel, diesel cycle. It's not, the applicability is not for hybrid electrics or other types of hybrids. I'm not saying that it's not important that those types of applications have, warranty coverage that, satisfies the needs of the end users. It's just that this proposal is more, it's one of the supplemental measures in our low NOx program, which we're, rulemaking that's going to happen a couple of years in the future. But ARB will be looking at addressing warranty concerns for those other types of technologies for heavy-duty vehicles. It's just that this rulemaking does not include them.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, are you saying something? We're not able to hear you. Yeah, there's a separate rulemaking effort that's looking at sort of fleshing out the certification requirements for, I think it's electric powertrains, and the warranty topic is being discussed in that context. Tess Seacat at ARB is the branch chief for that effort, and Matt Diener is the lead staff. So I'd encourage you to. I know you're already participating in that, Lisa, but if anyone else is interested, those would be the contact people for that effort.
This is Dave Kays again. Similar to the concern about where we're drawing the boundary between what is warranted and what's not, electric vehicles being in a separate rulemaking and so on. One of the things that I believe that I heard at the beginning of this discussion was that this proposal would only affect criteria pollutant-related emissions warranties. And when I try to look at the proposed rulemaking language, I'm not seeing that in there. So there was a distinction drawn between a criteria pollutant warranty issue and a GHG related warranty issue. And the GHG related warranty would remain at its current level. That was the proposal, but I don't see that in the rulemaking text. Am I misreading it?
No, David, your understanding is correct. The proposed change language should reflect that that separation. I'm not sure how to clarify that right now. Maybe we need to have a separate discussion about it.
Yes, our intent is that this rulemaking is only sort of changing the criteria related length of warranty. We didn't try to go in and change like the phase 2 greenhouse gas warranty provisions. So, but if you think we didn't do it correctly in the reg language, we'd be happy to have feedback on that. And as folks may have surmised by listening to this conversation, we do have some draft reg language that we've worked up, and we're happy to share that with anyone who's interested and wants to take an advanced look at it and give us any feedback. So if anyone didn't receive that from us and wants to see it and take a closer look, please talk to us individually. Of course, that will be released as part of our official staff report and all that kind of stuff. There'll be a period of public comment, but if you want an advanced preview copy, just talk to us.
But, and then I just want to clarify that the draft proposed change language, it is posted on the website, and there were hard copies available at the entrance. And part of the reason we did that is so that it gives you an opportunity to look at it, ponder it, and of course, David, if you have suggestions or comments, that's what we want to hear. So.
Okay, any other comments or questions while we are all gathered here? We certainly appreciate everyone taking time out of their day. I don't think there's any more email questions. No? So if anyone thinks of anything after this, or they just would prefer to speak to us privately, please come up and talk to us or send us a note. We're eager to hear everyone's opinions.
Thank you, everyone. And Paul, thank you.